This is a RAVEMEN PR1400. It's a 1400 lumen rechargeable bike light. So I was sent this to review for free. Retail price on this guy is $90. They have not paid me for my review, so my opinions remain my own. Okay, so we have all cardboard packaging. Inside the box you get a little warranty card, a headlight manual, a USB A to C charging cable, and we also get this little guy here, which is a USB-C cable to a button. So it looks like it has a remote button that you can attach. It has this little grippy mounting thing to mount to your bike handlebars. There is not a screw in here. Let's see if it's in this bag. There's the screw in the bag. So there's a screw with a little Allen key. It's a hex screw with an Allen key. Looks like an additional piece of maybe a thinner rubber grippy thing here. And so depending on which of these rubber grippy things you put in here, I think this goes from 31 to 38 millimeter diameter bicycle handlebars. And so this is your mounting bracket that stays on the bike, and then this guy snaps into that. And so it has a little catch in the back here, and basically you push this guy forward like that and it snaps in place, and then when you want to take it off your bike you push this down, and then you will be able to pull this guy back out. So there's also two of these little rubber bands. I believe they're supposed to go through here around your bike and to the other side like that to hold this button to your bike handlebar. Now on the unit itself, it claims to be IPX8 rated, so that's basically waterproof. You can dunk this underwater for up to 1.5 meters for up to 30 minutes with no ill effects, is what the IPX8 standard means. So on the back here we have USB out and USB in are the markings, and they have a rubber cover over them. Let me see, you pull from the center, so the USB in is just a USB-C port, and the USB out is a USB-A port. So it looks like it also will potentially work as a power bank, so you can charge it and then export power via the USB-A port coming out of this guy. So you could potentially use this to power up a cell phone or a GPS unit or something on your bike that takes a USB-A port in. Alright, so this light has two buttons. The main button here is your on off button. So if you push and hold that for 1.5 seconds, it'll turn on. And when it first turns on, it's in your brightest mode in the road biking mode. So it has this little orange LED here that says, hey, I'm in road biking mode. And that's kind of this guy here on your right. Now that light there has a little diffuser, and it's mostly pointing down, so it's not going to blind oncoming traffic. Now if you push this big button again, it'll switch to mountain biking mode, which turns on the big light in addition to the smaller light. And in mountain biking mode, this little green light turns on over here. It says, hey, you're in mountain biking mode. So the big button turns it on and off, and it switches between road mode and mountain biking mode. And by default, it turns on in the brightest of those modes. Now, if you don't need that much light, you want more runtime, you can push this button and it will go down a level. You push it again, it'll go down a level again. Push it again, and it goes back up. So in the mountain biking mode, there's high, there's medium, there's low, and then there's back to high. Now, in road biking mode, you have a couple other options. You have high, you have medium, you have low, you have eco, which is basically really low, and then you have a pulse mode where it will pulse up and down like this. So those are the modes in road bike mode. If you push it again, it'll go back to your high road bike mode. Now there is one other feature of this button where if you push and hold for more than 1/3 of a second, it'll go to emergency mode, which means it turns everything on super bright. And then when you release it, goes back. And you might think, well, you know, if I'm having an emergency, why would I take my hand off the handlebar and go and push and hold this button to get extra light? Well, the answer is you probably wouldn't, but that's where this remote control button comes in. So if this guy is plugged into the USB port, the USB-C port, basically the power import. When you push this button, if this guy is on, it takes the place of that little button. So you can use it to change your brightness settings. So if you want to switch up to a higher brightness setting or go to your flashing setting, you can just tap this button to do that. And then even if you're in your low setting, if you push and hold, a third of a second later, you get full brightness light with mountain bike light and everything until you let go. Then it goes back to your other setting. Now, if you want to change between road bike and mountain bike mode on the fly, you do have to reach over and push the big button. But once you've done that, you can change between the 3 different mountain biking power levels with the remote control button. Now, to turn it off, you do have to reach up and push this guy 1.5 seconds, so that'll turn it off. There is also a display here, and this display estimates your remaining battery time. So right now I'm in mountain biking mode, super high. This is 1400 lumens. It says, you have between 1 and 1.5 hours left. Now, if I change the mode here and I go to the road biking mode, it says, well, you have about 3, maybe 3.5 hours left. If I take the power level down to eco mode, this guy's going to jump up quite a bit. It says, well, you got like 22 hours left in eco mode. And then here I'm in the pulsing flash mode, and it says, oh, you can do 11 hours of the pulsing flash. So it gives you an estimate of how many hours you have left. If it does like 0.3, then it's a third of an hour. So you get an idea for, here we're at super bright mode. It says, well, you have an hour or less, or just a little more than an hour of time left. So it doesn't give you a battery percentage indicator, it just kind of gives you an hour remaining estimate. And it will say LO for low when you definitely need to charge this guy up. Now, just playing around with this guy for 4 minutes or so, this aluminum case is already warm to the touch. So it definitely is generating some heat with those LED lights. And it has some little lines on the side of the case here, but it is dissipating a little bit of heat through the case. Okay, I'm 60 paces away from my other camera. This is my point of view camera. When you turn this light on initially, it turns on in commuting mode. And let me try a few different modes here. So this is the high mode in the commuting mode. So we only have one of the 2 flashlight beams turned on here, but this is max output in this commuting mode. And it's a pretty good amount of light. And it's telling me we have about 3 hours of time in this particular mode. So we have a medium, and the estimate there is going up. Right now it says 4 hours. We have a low, and it's jumped up to 8 hours of estimate there for runtime on low. So this is low mode. And then there's eco. This is the lowest setting on the entire flashlight. And it says right now 20 hours. I've seen it do 22 hours for eco mode. So it's enough light to walk by. It doesn't reach super far in front of you, so you wouldn't want to ride fast, but if you're riding slow or walking, this is plenty. And then there's this mode, which is the flashy attention-getting mode. So it gives you, basically goes from eco to kind of mid-range and goes back and forth, so it captures attention, drivers can see you. Okay, now if you push the big button, we flip into the main mode here, and this is high beam. This is high and low beam, good distance. You can see quite a ways away, and so we have a few lower than this. This is 1.5 to 1 hour of time for this setting right here. So at the mountain biking mode, this is super high. This is the most it does. And then here's medium. And then this is low. So those are the 3 modes that you can do in mountain biking mode. So there's high, which is 1 to 1.5 hours of runtime. There's medium here. And on the medium mode, it's estimating currently 3 hours of runtime. And then there's low mode. And the estimate on low mode has gone up to 7 hours of runtime. So those are the different brightness settings of this guy here. Now this device charges with a USB-C input. They provide a USB-A to USB-C cable, so I want to make sure or check if this thing will do power delivery negotiation. So I have a power delivery wall charger here, and it is doing power delivery notification. And so right now these little things here are kind of doing a circular pattern, which indicates charging. It's drawing 0.8 amps at 4.9 volts, so it's basically charging at 5 watts. So I am going to charge this guy all the way up, and then we'll do a runtime test at its brightest mountain biking emergency mode and see if we get the claimed hour-and-a-half runtime. So the display has stopped rotating. Now it just shows 8.8, and it's basically done charging. It's at 0.05 amps, so I suspect this tiny little amp draw is just the amount of power it requires to keep that display lit up. But I do want to make sure it's fully charged, so I'm going to unplug it. Display went blank. We're going to plug it in again, and we will let it charge up until it says it's completely done again. So now it's spinning, and it has 0.3, 0.2. So it is charging right now. I'm going to charge it again until it has the solid 8s. Alright, we have 8.8. This guy is fully charged. Let's go do a test to see how long it'll run at its brightest setting. Okay, it's 3:21 p.m. Turning this guy on. It is in the brightest mountain biker mode, and we will let this guy run until it turns off. The display here is estimating 1.0 hours, and in the manual it says that means it basically has somewhere above 1 hour, so it's kind of the 1 to 1.5 hour range, and then that will go down as we deplete this battery. So in the time lapse, it's getting brighter and dimmer, and the estimated time is shifting up and down. I believe it might have been thermally throttling, going down to a lower power setting, and that would explain the hour and 45-minute runtime, which is a little larger than their acclaimed an hour and 30-minute runtime. Alright, so this guy turned off. When I turn it back on, it is blinking the 8s while it's determining how much battery capacity it has left. It is lighting up, but it is blinking low, so it understands, yes, I'm at low battery here. So after it turns off, you have just a little bit more light. I imagine if you put it down into the city biking mode and then put it in your super low eco mode, you could go for a while in the low eco mode, but it's time to charge it back up. We are going to charge it back up and monitor how much power goes in to get an estimate of the battery capacity. Alright, so it's charging 5 volts, 1.4 amps, basically taking 7.5 watts in, and we are counting milliamp hours and watt hours going in. Okay, this guy's fully recharged, and it took 21 watt hours, 4,327 milliamp hours at 5 volts. So at 3.7 volts of a lithium-ion battery, that's going to be, above 5,000 milliamp hours, probably 550, 6,000 milliamp hour battery. Alright, I'm not generally a big fan of devices that pretend to be a USB power bank when they're really trying to be something else. But this guy does have two 18650 cells inside of it, and it does have a USB 5-volt USB-A port coming out. So I'm drawing 1.4 amps out of this guy, and its voltage is sagged down to 4.8 volts on the output. So it's certainly usable to power a cell phone up or power some small electronic device on your bicycle. It's not going to produce super high levels of current, I suspect. Let's try going up to 2. And so there's 2 amps draw. And we're sagging down to 4.6 volts. So, I think you want to limit to 1.5 amps. It can produce 2 amps, but your voltage starts dropping, so your total power output goes down there. Let me just see if it shuts off at some point. Okay, there it shut off just above 2 amps. So basically, you can expect to get up to 2 amps out of this guy. Obviously, the length of the light you have goes down as you draw power out of it this way. I suspect this is not super efficient, so you might be having some efficiency losses there. But it does act as a USB power bank up to 1.5 to 2 amps. So unfortunately, I don't have a serious enough bike for this thing to fit. So even with the thickest silicone wedge in there, or shim in there, I am significantly smaller in my handlebars than we're expecting for this particular mount, so I will not be able to test it on this set of handlebars. Alright, so I checked this on 3 other bicycles my family members own, and this guy's too big for all of them. That's really not the fault of the light, because this guy meets the specifications on the listing. It's just non-standard for American handlebars. So this top part will separate from the clamp part with that Phillips head screw in there. So theoretically, if I find a clamp from something else, I might be able to screw the top matching bracket onto it. So this guy weighs 207 grams. If you add this clip, that goes up to 227. So I was pretty impressed with this guy. It can put out a lot of light if you want it to. Now one thing, it's rated at IPX8, which means it can be submerged up to 2 meters of water for up to 30 minutes. We're not going to do 2 meters, we're not going to go 30 minutes. I'm also leaving these little rubber protective things closed. Theoretically, it has that push button that plugs into one of them, so theoretically I probably should measure this with that guy open and the cable plugged in, but we're just going to leave these closed to give it its best chance here. So let's give it a shot. So in this case, it went up about 110 milliliters. Alright, this flashlight weighs 207 grams. It displaces 110 milliliters of water. That's basically the same as 110 cubic centimeters of volume. So the density here is 1.8 grams per cubic centimeter. And that checks out because this guy sank in water, so it has a density higher than water, and we know water's density is 1 gram per cubic centimeter. Alright, this guy's been underwater for 10 minutes and it's still operating, so that's a good sign. Let's get this guy out of here. I'm going to dry off all the surface water and then open it up and we'll see if there's anything inside of it. Right, from a waterproof standpoint, there was no water that had made it to the inside of the gaskets, so you're not going to have a problem with this in rain. I dropped it in a foot of water for 10 minutes and it was just fine. It has a copper thermal plate behind these LEDs that has thermal compound to get out to the aluminum body, so it dissipates the heat through the copper to the aluminum body. Alright, takeaways from disassembling this. Aluminum, stainless steel all on the outside. There's gaskets protecting from water ingress on the front and the back. There's additional gaskets inside here, so even if these are open, you get water in the ports, it won't go past the ports because there's gaskets on the inside there as well. It's powered by 2 18650 batteries on the inside, not easily user replaceable, but if you unscrew these 3 screws with a 1.5 millimeter hex head, you can pull this out and there's 2 wires. If you unsolder those 2 wires and take a little plastic cover off, you could pull the batteries out, put a different set of batteries in, solder them in place, and then screw this back in with those 3 screws. So it's not super difficult to replace the batteries. It's not a user type serviceable battery replacement, but it could have the batteries replaced in it if there's somebody who knows how to solder, and you'll need a 2 parallel set of 18650 batteries that fit inside there. So all in all, taking it apart made me more impressed with the build quality, and I am pretty happy with this flashlight. I can definitely recommend this flashlight as long as your handlebars will fit properly in this clip. I might just have to run a whole bunch of duct tape around my handlebars till it gets to the right size.